Oh, dang, son. Wow. All right, so certain names are running, certain names aren't. Tesla's doing good. JJ's talking about STEM. It's up 1%. Come on, JJ. All right, NIO. Freaking Atlassian, man. Jesus. That is nuts. That was a 30% day. Yeah, that's monster day, man. That is a monster day. Tesla. Hey, what's up, JJ? Giving you crap about STEM in chat. I don't see what you see in this thing. I don't see it. Looks like one of another thousand charts. Well, I know you don't give a crap. I'm actually curious. Not yelling at you. Something, Muhammad? A little late today. So I'll be out pretty much most of next week. Should be back on Friday. Going back to Cali. Yeah, Tesla moving after kind of a, I guess, well, good earnings, but bad forecast. I got back into my option because it didn't drop at all. It just went sideways and up. I got back in yesterday. Should I add some? If you have, I mean, if you have stuff to add, you can. Hasn't quite broken out. It'll break out at about 700, but even then we don't have like massive accumulation, but we do have really good signs. So I'm not lightning positions anymore. If we fail 700 again, I don't know. I flip flop a lot, so maybe I'll do something if we fail 700. But so far everything looks good. We had earnings. The earnings were actually really good. They like tripled estimates. Estimates were 50 cents, actual 145. So they almost tripled estimates. Um, but like you said, going forward, those 2 quarters I think are going to be fairly benign. But I mean, yeah, if you're in it for the long term, Muhammad, I mean, I've still got a lot of Tesla stock that I'm holding for long term. So, oh, is that what you're looking at? A measured move up there, JJ? Gotcha. Excuse me. Yeah, I think I mean, under 700 in history is going to look like you're the best trader of all time. It's going to be like, wow, you got Tesla at 700? It's at 10,000, you son of a bitch. You're like, that's right, you motherfucker. Yeah, I can't wait to wait either, Mohammed, because that's pretty much what we'll be doing. We'll be waiting. Plenty of price action and corrections along the way, though. Let's be clear about that. It's not a straight shot. Yeah, I hope that works out that way, JJ. Truly do. I think AMD's gonna half work that way too. AMD's and highs, guys. Discord. You want to do Discord? Let's see what I got. So I got invited to another channel, so I don't know if I can. Let me try to mute notifications from that channel first. Maybe just generally. But yeah, let me jump in Discord. What am I doing here? How do I get out? How do I get out of this menu? Oh, nope, that just closes Discord. Okay, so what the flip? Oh, escape. There it is. See, when you're old, your eyes just go away. There we go. Now you're in charts, charts, charts. What up, J to the J? Doesn't matter. It's just a voice channel. NIO 4.8%. Having a good day. Oh, CRISPR. CRISPR not too bad. Are you talking? Oh, I can't hear you. Hold on a second. This Discord switches all my settings. Yeah, output device. It's wrong. There we go.
They need to put a voice chat thing on YouTube feature.
Yeah, they need to do something. That'd be really good. Hey, what up, Ellie?
So
Yeah, I had to
you were
change
saying
all my
about
settings.
you got Tesla at 700, you bastard, when it's at 10,000. And it
Yeah,
just
right?
reminded me of this this discussion I was having yesterday with somebody about Tesla and like EVs and stuff, and he was like, yeah, I'm not buying any Tesla. Like I don't believe in Elon Musk and stuff. Like I don't like him. Like I don't trust it. And I'm like, but Elon Musk is not Tesla. Just look at the fucking figures. Like seriously, like
Yeah.
2013, they're doing 35,000 cars. They say they're going to do 500,000 cars in 2020. You look in 2020, they do 500,000 cars. What more do you want?
Yeah, I know.
Do you want me to gold plate it for you?
Yeah, I don't understand I try to get people around me involved, and it's tough. People just, it's not. I think some people just don't have that mindset that this can happen and that I can really make this kind of money. And then you have the people like you that are not like you, but your friend that, for some arbitrary reason, don't want to do it. Like, oh, I don't believe in Elon. Well, yeah, you're right. Tesla's not Elon, but yeah, forget everything. Look at the numbers. Look at the cars. Look at the next two. Look at the next 2 years, man. 2 years from now, this company's gangbusters. I understand when it was 10 years ago, and you had to really believe that Tesla Roadster is just a prototype. Yeah, 10 years ago was kind of hard to believe.
I think the clear switch over point for people to realize that this isn't going to go bankrupt and they're out of the woods and it's only going to go up and up was last year. It was 2020. If you don't own Tesla or aren't buying Tesla in the dips now, then you literally are just robbing your own bank account. It's just crazy.
Yeah, to guys like us, but there's those other people out there that can't fathom it. They can't fathom that these things can actually happen.
I like to show them the chart of renewable energy generation versus generation electricity from coal and stuff, and just show them that what's happened the last 10 years. And like,
Do you have that chart handy?
if they don't see it, then
yeah. Yeah, if you have that chart handy, post it up. I like those charts.
Oh yeah, let me pull it up.
XPev's having a great day. Dude, Atlassian 27%. That's all I talked about yesterday was buying Atlassian.
This is a UK one, but
I'm just kidding.
Real stock.
Mohammed says people still think that Tesla's
just in the UK. This one was you the idea.
Oh, wow.
The stock Slack.
Yeah. Gigawatt hours. Wind and solar. That's so cool. What's hydro pumps? Oh no, it's conventional thermal and others. That one, right?
Yeah.
And then hydro pumped is okay. It's underneath here. There it is.
And the CCGT is gas.
Oh yeah, really coming down since about 2016. Wow. So
it's just
man, you're
if that doesn't look like the start of an exponential curve to you, then
yeah. I know, right? It's like investing in China in '95.
And basically Tesla is in 2010 on this graph, effectively. Like 500,000 cars out of 100 million cars worldwide is 0.5%.
Yeah, did you hear what I think his earnings call was way too late for you over there in the UK, but he said on his earnings call that they have Megapacks sold out through 2022.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched the whole thing.
Just all of it. I was like,
yeah, and then I watched it again, and then I watched it some more. And it was like, basically, we're short of batteries, but if we have a hook, some downtime on the car manufacturing side, then we stick it into grid storage and home Powerwall packs, right? It's like
they need so much. It's crazy.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. It's like 3
bonkers.
terawatt by 2030, and you look at what Volkswagen is planning with a group with 240 gigawatts, and they've only allocated 180 or something in 3 factories. They're still scratching around for the last 60 gigawatts, and then that only gets you to about 20 million cars a year. So, the 3 terawatt. Yeah. I don't get it.
No, they need to. A couple things I'd like to ask Elon questions about is, like, number one, you've been building these factories now for, is it a year now or a year and a half or whatever? I'm like, when and where's the next factory? And when are you gonna? He needs to build a factory just for Powerwalls and Megapacks, like an entire factory, I think.
No, it's quite simple, the strategy, I think, in the sense that they're doing the cell manufacturing in Cato Road, right? So this is the impressive thing. They've got 90% of the line working at speed. Only 10% of the line has got some problem when they crank up the speed. And you were saying that the rollers were compression problems or something. The rollers breaking or something, I don't know. So if he gets that up to speed, then that's great, because that's obviously what's going to go into the Austin and the Berlin factory. But only when you have that working at pace, then commit to building more of those cell lines, because that is the one thing that's holding them down. Like, they could sell more grid packs and more power or packs right now if they had extra cell capacity. So
I know, but that's my point.
Yeah,
but they should be building another factory, just waiting for those parts to, like, slip in and start making shit.
Well, they probably have the plans to do it.
Hopefully, yeah. But then what I'm saying,
when certain execution targets get met, they will then start, because if it only takes a year to build a factory, and if you're only building an extra cell manufacturing plant, and you've done it once before, it might even be quicker than that if you're not doing the rest of it. Because I don't think the speed of the other products, like the Powerwall and stuff, on the line is holding it down. He once said, like, if you look at the amount of volume in a factory to how much is actually coming out. And at the rate that it's going, it's like coming out as a snail space. So we just want to bring it up to a slow walking speed. That'd already be like 10,000% faster.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not necessarily whole. It's the cell manufacturing, but if you want to make sure that it actually works out before you commit to more of the same. And it takes.
Yeah, you're breaking up, JJ. I don't know why. We can hear only parts of what you're saying. Hello? You're really choppy. I don't know. Yeah, Wi-Fi. That makes
you're
sense.
Back now? Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little better.
I've just switched the Wi-Fi over.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It was dead for a minute. Couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear myself, so I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah, no, I know. It's all good. Yeah, I suffer from that too every once in a while.
Yeah. So the cell manufacturing is definitely the thing that's holding things back, right? And what I took away from the earnings call was that he said that actually a large part of the cells that are going to go in Tesla products in the future are going to be lithium metal cells, right?
He did talk a little. Well, what he said, I think the future of the industry, and some people think that that's slang for Tesla. I don't necessarily think that. He said he thinks it's lithium metal, is what he said, and then he said that they're gonna, he said they're gonna save the cobalt stuff for the really energy dense needs. He was talking about.
But
he talked about that for
they already highlighted the fact that which chemistry they were going to use for what.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that's changed. I mean, it may have changed a little bit. I think as they experiment and as they
he did say that the 4680 cell might not be the cell that they use, the cell format that they use for the lithium metal cells, and there's a lot of different formats out there, and it has to sort of they have to work out which would be the best cell format for that. So I read into that actually they're now looking at the what cells they're going to make or buy or whatever for the lithium metal side of things, for all the the power walls and the grid packs and anything that doesn't require the higher energy density. So the cheaper cars maybe. Or certainly you've got in China, you've already got the what brand is it that they're sticking in there, which is also the lithium metal LFP cells.
I don't know.
And it's not BYD, but it's another one of the cell manufacturers. I mean, BYD does cars as well, but it's they've got the blade cell, which is really interesting.
I don't know much about that. I think you were talking about that, the blade cell. I don't know anything about that specific one.
No, it's good. It's really, if I'm looking at the other sort of car manufacturers out there, and I look at NIO, and then actually I think BYD might be. If I could buy BYD shares, I would do it, but I don't see how I would buy BYD shares.
Yeah, they're private, probably.
Yeah.
No, but
looks far more interesting than the battery swapping stuff and whatever NIO's doing.
So this is kind of what I took away from the earnings call. Basically the earnings call said, yeah, we just need more time. That's essentially what the whole call was about. And he said that it really sounded like they were going through manufacturing hell again.
It didn't sound like they were behind schedule though.
Well, there's no schedule.
There is a schedule. There is a schedule. The schedule was late this year. They were going to start manufacturing the first few cars in Tesla in Texas and in Berlin, and that's still on the cards.
Is that?
And they said it was going to be with front and rear casting and with a structural pack. That's all still happening.
Well, because what I heard is that Well, I heard a couple of different things. I heard that they have alternative ways to make cars, saying that maybe they're putting together alternatives in case some of these things take too long for them to figure out, and they have to switch to a less
Yeah,
technically.
I'm not sure if I got it from the limiting factor, Jordan, or it was somewhere else. Where if you look at the into the reports from the Berlin factory, it actually shows that the cell manufacturing part of the factory isn't going to be online until a bit after the end of the year or a bit after the rest of it is finished. So he was suggesting that they would ship over a bunch of cells so that they can start manufacturing cars with the old underbody or the old center bit for the first couple of months before then the structural pack would come in.
Yeah, that's the hard thing to pinpoint. And then he also said something about, and that's what I was talking about. That have like alternative ways. He's like, maybe we have a backpack or a back structural and a front regular. I don't know. I don't want to say I'm nervous because when you think about this in the big picture, it's all going to probably sort itself out within 6 months, right? All the little
Yeah.
what ifs that we get privy to. So it's probably not a huge issue. Um, and then the other thing that they talked about was that there was that guy that had never heard on the earnings call before talk about Cybertruck. When they asked about Cybertruck, I guess he's their Cybertruck guy. And he said that they're going to do Model Y first and
Yeah.
then Cybertruck. And Cybertruck is now an alpha and it'll be in beta by the end of the year. So my assumption takes that is that Cybertruck will probably start March, April, May of next year. Within, because if they're doing Model Y and then Cybertruck, see, those were his words: Model Y then Cybertruck. They didn't
Yeah, but
elaborate past
okay.
that
So
though.
they have a limited amount of people doing stuff, right?
Yeah,
And if you want to set up the production in Texas first, because that's the only place the Cybertruck's going to get made at the moment.
yeah,
So if you want to sort production out in A, the first thing you want to sort out is the Model Y production because it uses far less cells per car.
yeah.
The Cybertruck, even though they've got like 1 million orders for it or something, is great, but it's not that important.
Well, no, it's not that it's specifically important. I think well, a lot of people were expecting.
Here's my view on it. Like if the important thing is right to get the world over to sustainable transport, zero emissions transport, then you want to build as many cars as you can as fast as possible, and that doesn't mean you're gonna then put a lot of emphasis on like a roadster or a Cybertruck that uses many more cells or is very sort of specific to one small market group.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm just referring to um, just overall.
And keep in mind, like even if all car manufacturers were able to produce 100% EVs tomorrow, they were making 100 million EVs tomorrow. Cars last 10, 15 years. There's at least 1.5 billion cars out there to replace. So 100 million cars a year, that's going to take you 15 years before you replace the majority of the fleet. So and more than likely, we're not going to get to that 100 million EVs a year until 2030 at the earliest, I think, worldwide. And that's actually a push that's assuming that the other car manufacturers pull their finger out, which they're not. So when you add that up, 2030 plus another 15 years, that's 2045 before we actually have moved the dial significantly on transport. And transport isn't just cars. Then you've got trucks, then you've got shipping, then you've got aircraft.
Yeah, it's a lot. I wasn't saying.
There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, no, I know. I was just thinking that I was thinking Texas, for like full capacity because they say they're because they have a lot of work to do in Texas. They're doing like most of the models there. The Cybertruck, they're doing the Roadster there, they're doing the Semi there, and so in order to, I definitely understand and agree that yeah, you got to push out the Model Y because that's going to be their best seller. Um, But everyone's just
Well,
wanting it.
it's the
Everyone's just
most
wanting the other
efficient in
three
terms of
models.
transporting people versus the number of cells that you've got, which is the restrictive factor at the moment.
Correct.
When that becomes less of a restrictive factor, then the Cybertruck would obviously be great. I mean, there is a relatively big demand for trucks in the United States, and the United States is obviously the market that's going to be served by Giga Texas.
Yeah. We're just
Um,
we want it all now, JJ.
we want it all now, and I think that's the real takeaway from it. I think is not so much that they're behind schedule or the schedule is in danger, is that everybody's expecting way too much way too quickly, and
It's
people
true.
forget that they've been going for over a decade already.
I know, it's true.
And
It's
now they want a decade's worth of progress in a year.
hell yeah. Let's do it.
It's just not the way it happens.
I know. I know. You know what I'm worried about though, and I hope this doesn't happen. I really hope this doesn't. I hope Elon doesn't fucking completely change the game again, because one of my thoughts, and I said this when they first did it at battery when Battery Day came along, is that Elon had a perfectly good working business, a manufacturing facility, a way to do things, and he exploded it all. And he exploded it all. And I don't think it was a horrible bad decision, but I hope he doesn't do it again.
Well, the reality is that the amount of factory space needed to push the cells out in a traditional format was absolutely massive. They would have needed to have at least 30 gigafactories or something to get to 20 million cars.
I think they were talking about
And now
100.
now
They're
they
talking
only need
about
4 or 5.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. So maybe
So
maybe it was a necessity.
that was the simple. It was just necessary.
All right. All right, fair. Maybe I
Uh,
withstand my stance
so
on that a little
it
bit. No, yeah,
yeah.
you're right. We
So
talk about
they're going
building.
through that Herculean effort to do that, but it's worth it because it takes so much less factory space, and also it takes so much less energy. That's the one thing that I don't see them highlighting is, if you can go from a liquid electrolyte or a liquid cathode material to
Solid.
to like this rolled pasty powder stuff, and you don't have to dry it. It uses so much less energy. Like energy is cheap, right? So when they say it reduces the cost only by 20% or whatever, it's a huge change in the amount of energy that's required. So that actually reduces the amount of energy to build the battery pack and therefore the whole car significantly. And EVs are more energy intensive to build than an ICE car. So because you use electricity to then drive it, which is much cleaner than gasoline and emissions and all that sort of stuff, over the whole, it's much better for the environment to drive an ICE car, an EV. But when you then bring down the amount of emissions and energy that you generate or need in the manufacturing process of the battery pack drastically, it really changes the game in terms of emissions. And I just don't seem to be. I guess they know about it and they're happy with it, but it's not necessary to be marketing that or anything at this
Yeah,
point.
well they
But
did talk they
to
did
me,
talk about that.
that's a real big driver to going to the dry rolled stuff.
Well, that they did talk about that extensive. Well, first of all, in Battery Day, they had a lot to talk about, but they did
Yeah,
highlight the fact that it was like 90% fewer square footage and 99%
yeah.
less energy usage. Really, just amazing stuff. It's so Ellie's been talking here a little bit. Looks like he's been sick with with coronavirus, AIDS, hantavirus for the past week or so. Um,
But
but
yeah, if I mean, I'm just spitting these numbers out and I can't remember them exactly. But if the battery pack is like half the energy requirement to build the whole car, and you're cutting that down by 90% because of the way that you change the manufacturing process, that's a pretty big deal.
yeah, it is a big deal. Yeah, maybe I'm just being a little too impatient. It's probably exact. I mean, I'm a shareholder, so it's not like I'm giving up on them or anything like that. But yeah, it's probably the right move. I would like to see announcements of like the next gigafactory or two because they only need because what to get to. Another thing that I would be curious about is they have a lot of other gigafactory locations with a lot of extra land. I wonder how much capacity they have just based on the land that they have. Because in Texas, can't they like make 4 gigafactories where Texas
It,
on the Texas? Because they
I
have like
think
a
it wouldn't
thousand
surprise me
acres.
if they. I think it wouldn't surprise me if once the 4680 cell plants are working, even at half speed,
They're gonna pop up
um,
four more gigafactories.
they pop up another couple of extra buildings with the same again in terms of cell manufacturing capability, because they can probably crank out a faster production rate in the rest of the manufacturing facility without, so there's no need to build another factory. So I can see them building a factory in Asia somewhere, and another one, or in Africa or something further down the line or whatever. But um, I'm not sure how many more gigafactories they need. I think what they need is another couple of cell manufacturing buildings once these first ones start to come online.
Well, we had the. Well, if you look at the production on their, I don't know if I can pull up there. Oh yeah, I can. Let me pull this up real quick. The shareholder deck that they had, because they're trying to get to what 20 million cars a year by
Yeah,
2030. Here we go. So you've got, I mean, because right now this is 1,050,000 in capacity. So then, but they don't mention potential capacity out of Berlin, potential capacity out of Texas, potential, but obviously those are the only ones. Um, I it doesn't look just
but
by this that this gets them to 20 million. If they can do 1 million out of Berlin and 1 million out of this, that's still only 3 million. But then the question is, can they build more factories on existing gigafactory sites, or do they have to get additional sites? Because there's the site, then there's the factory, right? So can they do
yeah,
1 million Model Ys, and then can they do 1 million Cybertrucks, and then can they have another factory for
that's what
semi
I'm
and
trying to say to
roadster?
you. It's like the sites has got more to do with where the cars or products are eventually going to go, and where you get the materials from,
Yeah,
and not shipping everything halfway around the world.
yeah,
And the production capacity is more to do with how big the site is, and
sure.
how big you need to extend it, and what do you actually need to extend, or do you just drive up the speed of the product manufacturing, excluding the cells, and build a few more buildings around the outskirts to increase the cell manufacturing
Yeah. I
rate.
mean, they could if they can get those robots clocking, cars be popping out once every
Well,
10 seconds.
you
Bam,
can
bam,
work out
bam.
from the one of the videos, and I can't remember the number, so I'm not going to say it. But how long does it take to do one of the front or rear castings before, like the
Yeah.
cycle rate? That is probably how fast you can build the cars in that factory, unless you double up on those machines, and they are massive machines.
Yeah. Yeah, they are massive. If that's the bottleneck, that would be the case. That would definitely be the case.
Because
But
you've got the cooling to, the metal needs to come in hot, and then it needs to cool down just enough that they can get the part out without it deforming.
yeah, and they gave somebody gave a figure, and
Yeah,
I forget it was like max capacity. It wasn't like 1,000 a day. I think it was 1,000, like max capacity without any downtime was 1,000 a day, right? So divided by 24 hours, so that's 41 an hour. So that's like basically one every minute,
minute and a half.
basically. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So how many of those machines, those
I think they had
casting
six.
machines, do they have
They have six.
per factory or in total across the board?
Six in Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, there's going to be 6 going into Texas.
I think there's already in Texas. They're already there.
Well, yeah, I just mean, how many have they got working now at the moment producing cars, and at what volume, and how many are they going to have
Yeah, I don't
installed
know.
in Berlin and Texas on top
Well, so if you
by
if
the
you
end of this year, or into
if you've
next
got
year.
six, that means if they're going to do, it depends if they're going to do front and rear gigacastings, and we haven't even really
Yeah.
heard much how they're going to integrate the batteries into the body yet. I think we haven't heard much about that, so I don't know if they're
Well,
going to have.
you can see from the Battery Day presentation that actually it is possible to have both battery architectures with the same body. They've left it. They've only modified it ever so slightly, really, so that you can get away with either the old style or the new structural battery pack. But there was no mention of them not doing the front and rear casting. It sounded like they were going to definitely be doing both sides. It's just at the moment, how they're making it at the moment is it's only cast at the rear and it's assembled at the front.
Yeah, which is, I don't want to say concerning, but it's just I don't like the fact of not having it down. I understand they want to get to production, but so in other words, they're having engineering difficulties mating everything, and it's a big job. I'm not saying it's not, but they're having difficulties mating everything. But if they have 6 gigacastings, if they do all six for rear, right, and then you can do, let's just say one every minute and a half, give them the benefit of the doubt, right? It's kind of what you have to do. So they can do 1,000 a
I'd
day.
I'd have to dig through the documents that I've collected to figure out how many they've already got in the other factories, and I don't know how many are going in Berlin either.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I
But
just
if they're
I
already
do know
pushing
6.
a million, if they're already pushing 1 million cars a year with what they've got right now,
Yeah.
and say for instance there's going to be a sixfold increase of that, then that definitely only would get you to 6 million cars a year. So your point in terms of do we need more factories, or what do we need more in order to increase the rate?
Elon says we're counting Berlin as if it's a done deal. Well, it's a done deal. It's just not manufacturing cars yet. They may be pushed out a few months or something, but they'll get it in
Look at the
there.
pictures look at the pictures that they showed on the earnings
Oh
call,
yeah, no,
or that's in the
Berlin's,
report. That does
yeah,
that look like a done deal to you or not?
it's there. The factory's there. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that's Berlin. Sorry, environmental lady, it's there. And
yeah.
you know
And then
what?
look at the inside pictures.
Is this Berlin? Oh, it is Berlin. Okay.
That is Berlin. Look at the inside. Does that look like it's
Yeah,
getting
and see,
ready
here's
to
Texas,
rock?
the Model Y factory. But yeah, this is just they got a bunch more land. They have a ton of
Yeah.
land. Yeah, so there's the stamping presses. So one, two, three. There's five. One, two, three, four. Wait a minute, I can't count. One, two, three.
But say
Looks like
that
five.
these
Maybe there's only
factories
five.
are in present state, the way they're installing all the equipment, get up to the speed of 6 million cars, and they get to that speed by the end of next year, which would be crazy.
Oh no 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 no.
Then
Hold.
it's 2022 because we've got 20 million cars penciled in for 2030, so that's another 8 years.
So you listened to the call a couple of times. Uh, Ellie's talking about German bureaucracy can hold it up for years if they want to. I don't think they want to. They want it to go through, and
Oh, they do.
they really do. It's just
They
some
do.
of the environmental people are breathing down their necks, and Tesla's pretty
I think they
environmentally
are
conscious
doing
too.
their best to keep the environmentalists out of it and just
Yeah.
keep it going ahead.
But one thing that Elon said, and maybe this is where I need to go back and re-listen to the conference call. I thought they talked about growth rates for next year, and Elon was bobbling back and forth between 50 and 100% for growth for next year. So this is where my bigger picture was coming into play. If that was the right context, whether it was car growth rates for next year, he said between 50 and 100. He wasn't leaning towards 100, and I don't think he was quite leaning all the way down towards 50, but I think he was getting close just by how I heard him bobble back and forth.
I thought he was talking about gigawatt hour cell manufacturing, not about
Wh-
percentage of.
well, which is kind of the same thing, right? As we understand, gigawatt hours goes
Well,
into
it's
how many
not
products
because
you
it
can
depends on
deliver.
how many cells they're able to get in from the suppliers.
Mm, maybe.
Because, for instance, in Shanghai, they don't make the cells there. It's not Panasonic either. It's what are they called? C something, circle 4-letter thing.
Yeah, whatever. So if it was about cell production, even cell production, if they okay, think of it this way: if they can't double cell production, they can't double cars. So
Yeah.
The way that I was viewing it is they're backing up due to not engineering but problem solving, as they
They've
said
asked
several
their
times.
suppliers. The question was they said that the question was from their cell manufacturers and other people, whether or not they were going to just be making their own cells in house then, and they wouldn't buy any in. And they said that actually they asked for double what they are getting now from their suppliers for next year.
Yeah,
that is on top of the massive increase of cells that they are going to be making themselves in house. So I actually read that totally differently.
Okay, yeah, maybe I didn't hear the context to the question quite accurately, but I'll just tell you what I took away from it. What I took away from it is that things are being pushed back a little bit for technical reasons and for bureaucracy reasons in Germany, and so they're going to start production in like March, give or take. That was kind of how I viewed it. I need
to show you the documents that I think it was the limiting factor that Jordan found from the factory in Germany, and it shows you exactly in which months what bits get installed and finalized and stuff. And it doesn't look like anything's behind schedule.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just going by the earnings call, what Elon was talking about. Just a macro picture, not month by month per se, but in other words, if you're between 50 and 100%, you're not starting in January. You're starting a bit later, because if you're going to bring on 1 million capacity and you have 1 million capacity, that's a pretty easy math equation. So that's all I was getting at. But if I took that the context of that growth rate wrong, then yeah, it can definitely change things. Because we were looking at the car production over here and saying, okay, well, for the next 2 quarters, they're going to have no additional growth. Because if you look at their capacity, and I'm thinking in terms of earnings and stock prices, right?
I don't think that's right, because they did have some downtime because they had to, because of the chips, they had to basically,
which is still going to be a concern too.
Recode a bunch of different chips to work in their cars to be able to keep the production rate going. So I think there is still some room for an increase in production from where they are now.
So, well, let me just show you
the next couple of months. But it won't be like 50% or 100%, something crazy like that.
Exactly.
It'll be,
10%. Something. Yeah.
And even when the lines come online in Texas and Berlin, they won't come online at 100%.
Well, so that was my point.
It is feasible that they just keep increasing the production with what they've got right now, and with those factories coming on to the point that you have 100% increase by this time next year.
This time next year, I think it'll be, that's probably reasonable next year. The only thing I was saying is like the next, because again, I'm thinking in terms of what the market may be thinking. The next 2 quarters, I don't think you're going to see the crazy increase, because they were able to do so. Let's go through what they have here. They say they can do basically 1,050,000 cars, and I don't think they're going to. Do you think they're going to do 100,000 Model S or X's? I don't think they're going to do anywhere close to that. I think in the next quarter or two.
By when?
I'm just thinking the next quarter or two, because they are constrained by chips, and they did what, like 2,500. They did 2,300 Model S and Model X's in Q2s. They did 0.
I think it's only going to be like 20,000.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that many. So they're not going to be close to this 100,000 number. So we'll take 20,000. So let's minus 80,000 out of that. So that's 970,000. That's 970,000, which is a great number. Not knocking the number. But then the next quarter, we may probably still have the same chip shortages. I don't have a full complete picture, but Apple was talking about chip shortages. Everybody's so that's 970 full capacity. So if you divide that by 4, that's 242,000 a quarter, running at Mach 10, right? Running at 100% capacity, and they did 206 total. So they do have a little bit of growth they could potentially, if they're running at 100% for the next 2 quarters. because
Yeah.
this next quarter they're not going to have gigafactories open, right? At all.
Right.
That's only coming in October.
Yeah.
So
But he said that it's not going to be significant numbers at the
yeah,
end of this year anyway out of those factories.
yeah.
But
So
they can get to the rate of 100 million. Sorry, 100 to the rate of 1 million cars a year by the end of the year. And so, taking into the quarters that we've already had, you're never going to get to 1 million cars total for this year, which is fine. I was only counting on about 850,000.
yeah. Well, I think the chip shortage sucked them dry from that. They had a shot, but it didn't. It didn't. But it doesn't matter. You're right. It doesn't matter. So my point is then in Q1, I wonder what they're gonna do if Texas is on if Texas is online, if they're producing wise. I guess we'll just know more in October instead of it's hard to guess. It's easier to see one quarter out, right? It's harder to see, especially with Tesla. It's harder to see
I think
in month
the
4.
main worry is that there is some sort of other shortage down the line that's unforeseen, which affects them, and then it holds the production back. And I think you're going to see some sort of stock price reaction to that if that ever happens. But they've shown that they're pretty flexible with the chip shortage already. They've been
Yeah,
asking
they've done good.
material suppliers like nickel and stuff to produce as much as they can produce for several years now. Like, what could actually slow them down?
I don't know. Well, I mean, aluminum. It's not going to be aluminum. It's not going to be the. It's not going to be the frame. It'd have to be something in batteries, or again chips. And it was funny they talked about. He's like we could build a chip fab, but that would take 12 months, and by then it'll be solved.
Pointless.
Yeah, and it probably cost them another couple of $1 billion, maybe more.
Yeah. My other interesting consideration is that so they're now building up like $1 billion a quarter or something in revenue, in profit, right?
Oh, is that what it was?
And it's just over $1 billion, wasn't it?
I didn't actually look at the profit. No, I don't really care about profit. I wasn't focused on that. I was just looking at growth rates.
I do because
Okay.
because they are still ramping up as fast as they can. So if they're actually if they're not reinvesting everything into the
Wow, look at the margin.
increase of production rates, as in it's going into building other factories and stuff, then you kind of have to wonder what they're going to be using that money for, because their aspirations are, as we know, to accelerate the transition of sustainable yada yada.
I don't know what
And
they're
so, well, let's think about it for a minute.
hookers.
And I mentioned this before. You got Autonomy Day coming in now this month.
Yes, the 19th, and in about
Yeah. So
3 weeks.
if you've got a nice fat cash reserve and you don't have to sell all the cars that you produce because you don't need the income, that means you can then own those cars yourself and operate them as a fleet.
You're going back to robo-taxis, JJ.
We're going back to robo-taxis, and I'm going back to robo-taxis because I'm telling you, the utilization rate of cars is crap, right? 90% of the time they sit there doing nothing.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a really big impact on the emissions of transport, you want to be getting a much higher utilization rate out of the cars that you produce. Otherwise, we're going to be waiting until 2045 before we have, like 90% or whatever of the emissions from passenger transport on the road removed. So to accelerate that, what you want is a whole big fleet of autonomous cars driving around 24/7.
Okay, so you're saying right now they have about a 24% gross margin. So if you can, and obviously they're going to have their new compact car, right, in the future too.
The gross margin's only going up.
Well, hold on a second. Yeah, just hold on. Just bear with me a second. So let's say it's 40,000, which actually raised the price. But let's say it's 40,000. So it'd be basically $30,000, right, for them to make a car.
Yeah, there's a difference between
exactly.
Yeah, cost price. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 30,000 for them to make a car, and you would probably argue if they're.
So let's work on a quarterly basis. So 1 billion divided by 30,000 is how many cars per quarter?
Probably a pretty easy math with only with all the zeros and stuff. 33,000 cars debt free.
And times a year, so times 4.
133,000 cars.
Yeah, so they can have a fleet of 133,000 cars as a robo taxi fleet. In a year's time, if they wanted to.
Maybe, yeah. That's if they didn't do anything with debt or any other kind of financial shenanigans.
Just off their own balance sheet, they could do this without going into any debt or anything.
Well, I think probably what they're going to do is, if you think about it, maybe the right way to go. And I think Elon is, I don't know if he said this or maybe a YouTuber said it or something. Maybe you said it. Is he said whatever cars they don't sell, they'll just keep on their fleet. Because if someone's buying the cars and they're making money,
Yeah, but they have got the demand, and you can't regulate who buys the cars. You can't say if you're a taxi driver, then you can have a car. If you're not a taxi driver, then you can't. It's not going to work.
Hold on.
What you can do is hold back cars and use them for autonomous operations, so they get a higher utilization rate.
But I don't think that's a smart move. I think the smart move is build another factory. I think
it is the smart move if you look at the environment.
No. Hold on. I think the smart move is to keep, because the people that want to buy the cars. I mean, they're not going to shoo their customers away. They're going to sell the cars, and if and when they implement this plan, which we agree would probably be in, if they do it, 3-4 years, right? You're thinking maybe 3-4. So by then they'll be making more than $1 billion a quarter.
I think at the rate that they are going, we might see the autonomy thing being solved and regulated in a year's time at this rate.
Well, that's the autonomy thing, but that's not addressing their capacity. I don't think Tesla's...
and that's what I'm saying about the cash. You need to have the cash in the bank so that in a year's time you can say, actually, we're going to take 150,000 cars and not sell them and stick them in fleet operation.
So here's the thing. I disagree. I think they will build their own factory for autonomy, and they will, because you have to make that $1 billion a quarter to make all those cars. So they're not going to be able to make $1 billion a quarter if they're not making any money. And I don't think...
How many million do you think 150,000 cars will make for you?
But that's not the point. The point is that you have to...
the point.
No, hold on. You have to make the cars first, and then you have to deploy the cars, but you have to have revenue in the meantime. You're talking about grinding Tesla to a halt to make robots.
No,
right?
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that they're going to set aside a small percentage of their production capacity to a robotaxi fleet. So those cars are going to roll out the factory and they're going to go straight into robotaxi operation and generate revenue.
Okay, well, if you say small percentage, I would, then they could do that.
Well, 150,000 out of 1 million cars is
true.
only a small percentage.
I didn't think of it. Yeah, I didn't think about it from that perspective. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, maybe they could do that if they want to do it.
And in a year's time, like it could be 2 million cars a year. So that's 150,000 out of 2 million. That's less than 10%.
Well, think of Tesla. Think of Tesla in 4 years. They're probably going to have another gigafactory or two. So they're going to have their manufacturing thing figured out. I think they'll just open up a whole plant that'll just be... they're going to open up a whole plant. Because think about it from Elon's perspective. He's probably not going to want to stop a production line to make a robo-taxi, which will probably be bare bones. He'll probably have like a wham bam thank you ma'am one with loose fitting panels and all that bullshit. So he'll have a factory.
Wouldn't it just be exactly the same car that they make now?
Well, which one?
Tesla Model Y, Tesla Model 3.
What about their new one they're coming out that's going to be a smaller model for $25,000? Why won't they do that one? I mean,
it can be as well.
We don't know.
Matter.
And actually another thing I think is on their master plan part due is some type of a bus, right?
Yeah.
So I think they still have other things they want to do before they roll out massive robotaxi fleets. I think. I mean, I could be wrong about that. Maybe they whip it in there, but
for me, it's a balance between is replacing the majority of the world's passenger carrying cars by 2045 fast enough, or do they want to accelerate? Because they're already obviously pushing other car manufacturers into building EVs, so that's job kind of done. But is that fast enough, or do they want to get higher utilization rates out of the cars that they produce, so that ICE cars are being driven less?
We'll see what he decides.
Yeah. So if you're talking about a big thing that could happen that changes things up, like happened with the cell manufacturing and stuff, that is one potential thing that I see Elon doing.
I don't disagree at some point. I just don't think it's on the front of his list. I think it's towards the back end of his list. Because in order for that to happen, a lot of ducks have to line up. You really have to nail. You have to nail down.
They're already making the cars with the hardware in. All they need to do is finalize the autopilot.
Well, they've been saying that since 2016, and now you're seeing cars have to upgrade for $1,500 to new hardware.
But they have been collecting so much data, and with the neural networks and stuff, the way things work, it's not a linear line. It's a logarithmic thing. The thing gets better and better and better, and it's an exponential curve up.
Well, I think
and they can prove really easily with the regulators when it's actually safer than having a human driver. That's already
so hold on. You think it goes up exponentially, but the part you're missing is that the problems they're solving also go up exponentially. Does that make sense? So your corner cases are harder and harder to solve, and you have fewer and fewer data points because they're corner cases. Does that make sense? So I think that's what they're suffering with now. Like if you look at a lot of these videos on Tesla, they do good 80% of the time, but there's like some weird shit where they just can't, they do a decent job, but it's just these weird corner cases. And if that mind's eye that they're showing is any indication, I don't think they point out as many data points as you would assume they do. They can only look like 50, 40 feet ahead of them, at least according to their little graph. I don't think they see, because I'll see two or three lights ahead, but I don't see it on their graph. So I don't know if Tesla's looking at that yet. They may be looking closer, like these are things we don't know, but those corner cases are tough and they're really difficult. U-turns are really difficult. I mean, there's still a lot of things. They're still getting the basics right. They're not even on the crazy shit yet. So I think they're a little further out on autonomy, let alone a robotaxi, which has to be completely point-to-point with zero interventions. Absolutely zero.
Let's look at a slightly different market here. Let's look at animation, and look at when you had the first sort of Disney movies and stuff, and it was all hand drawn and stuff, and then you started to get the first rendered shots in animation movies, and then you had Toy Story, and look at where we are now.
Yeah, you can still tell their drawings. You can still tell. Look at the latest Star Wars film. It was really good, but Princess Leia still looked like an animated mouth. Those are the corner cases because they get exponentially harder because the human brain is just, we're so in tune to that. But it'll be the same thing. Like, if I can't think of a specific example, but like maybe something running right in front of a car coming from a very far peripheral vision, something very small, like say a toddler walking. Like I don't know if the camera sees that. I don't know when it's going to see that. They still don't respond to emergency vehicles. I mean, that's a big problem for autonomy. So maybe in 3 and 4 years it'll be different, but today it's hard to say exactly when they're going to get all, because the corner cases are a lot. And with Dojo, I think Dojo's going to help them out a bunch, and I think that's what we're going to learn on what are they calling it?
Day.
Autonomy Day? Is that what they're calling it?
AI Day.
AI Day. Yeah, I think we're going to learn that, and I think what you're going to hear is that they still have a lot of work to do on a lot of those corner cases. and you can't roll out 1 million robotaxis that aren't 99.99%.
I'm just saying that they're already getting to the point where they have the cash in the bank to be able to not sell the cars.
Yeah, at 133,000 a year, I would agree with that. Yeah, but it's not to the point. I don't know. I think what would be really cool is if they started making. I know they're boring. I know the Boring Company doesn't really have that many miles underground. I think it's like 5 or something like that. But that'd be cool if they were to. They could have that autonomous in a controlled environment. I think they could do that
Well,
pretty easily.
that would definitely be a first trial. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but it would just be for Las Vegas, and they need like 6 of them. I think I'm gonna make them in my garage. So I think autonomy has a lot of work to be done on
To
it.
do still too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot. I mean, he's a really good salesman as much as he doesn't appear to be a salesman.
Hmm.
I don't think it's just a little bit harder than that's a tough problem, man. I mean, how long has Google been working on this? Since like 2005 with Waymo, when Waymo started. I mean, they're 15 years into autonomy. They're not even it's not even 15 years for electric vehicles. Tesla's moving at light speed with that, but with autonomy they're 15 years in. Tesla's arguably what, 3? Maybe 3
Yeah,
years
but
in?
it all depends on it all depends on how you're working on it, right?
No, 5. They're 5 years in. They're
It
5
all
years
depends
in.
on
No, I
how
agree with you. Yeah.
on what your strategy is and how you're solving the problems.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tesla has an edge there, but I'm just saying it's still a longer road than I think a lot of people, because he said in 2020 we'd have it, and here it is at mid 2021, and you can see by looking at those YouTube videos that. Oh, and another thing that was a little bit odd was that he didn't elaborate on subscriptions at all. Why do you think he did subscriptions? Like, even started it? Why even start it? They don't need $200 a month, do they?
Uh, because people wanted it. I think that was all.
Yeah, maybe.
But all I'm just trying to say is, like, if you look at a chart and you look at a parabolic run up, and then you've got a line going vertical, that is autonomy for you. And then you've got the point at which it becomes safer than a human driver is just a horizontal flat line. So it is going to be from one day to the next is going to be solved. It's not going to be a slow process. It's slow
from that perspective,
and then the switch over is from today to tomorrow.
Yeah, from that perspective, but you can't run a robotaxi fleet
it's
based on
difficult to
that.
pinprick when that moment is going to be.
Yeah. But you can't run a.
But if you have the cash available to be able to not sell those cars, and now the next step is you solve that problem. Now all of a sudden you can take 10% of your output and turn it into an autonomous fleet.
Yeah, they may allocate a percentage, and it's funny. I wonder, because they said what those cars may do 30,000 a year. So after 1 year, the fleet is doubling it is basically building upon itself, and then the next year the fleet is doubling itself. So the fleet will double itself and pay for it. So yeah,
it's yet another exponential curve. Yeah,
exactly. So the first year you're doing 100.
The production rate goes up, and you add to the fleet. It's just.
Well, if you think about it, so let's say they have they have autonomy solved in 2025. Let's just say.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to bring back that 2045 date from sorting out the emissions, you want to bring it back a lot. Then solving the autonomy problem, with what you were just discussing with the exponential rate that you could build the fleet out with, that would make a magnificent, huge difference to it. Like, you could take 20 years off.
Yeah, I wish they would make that super cheap. They'd have to get that down to about 15 cents a mile, which I don't know if that's feasible. They'd have to make it down to about 15, maybe 20 cents a mile for it to be economic for someone like me to not own a car, probably. Maybe. I'd have to do some math on that.
I don't know how many miles you do a year and how much you.
Yeah, I'd have to do the math on that.
What your spend is on car ownership in a year, and I guess that's the thing you have to work out.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about is in the U.S. you can actually write off your mileage on your taxes, and they do it at 55 cents a mile.
Right.
So that, in theory, that's what they're assuming is your business kind of break even point. Although they probably massage some margin in there, but it's because I used to write off some mileage, and at 55 cents a mile, I mean, you could actually make some decent money by not really make decent money, but you could reduce your tax liability significantly But by driving, if
you mean you can drive for less than 55 cents a mile and you get paid 55 cents a mile, so you make a profit.
yeah, basically, if
Right.
you can
So
do that.
so for argument's sake, let's say they need to get the cost down to 55 cents per mile. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you can,
Well, he said
if you can drive,
it.
the car, how many miles do you think the cars will last?
Oh, the Teslas?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, they'll last freaking forever, dude. It depends how shitty they want to get before they pull them. I mean, you got cars driving around right now from 1990. I still see them. I saw an Isuzu Rodeo from
So how many
94
miles?
yesterday.
That's. I mean, yeah, you'd have to take the cost in of the battery pack to replace it if and when that goes. But say that the car does at least 1 million miles and the car is $35,000 or whatever. The electricity cost to drive the thing is pretty non-existent, but we can work that out as well.
Yeah, I think.
So let's work that out.
I think they could do. I mean, I think they could do 55 cents a mile, especially at scale.
1 million divided by 35,000. 28 miles per dollar. That's 3.5 cents.
Just with making a car and
just for the car, the write-off of the car is 3.5 cents. So
over how long?
Cost on top.
Over 1 million miles.
Yeah.
They may be able to do that. Now, one thing I took away is that they're not going to be replacing battery packs. They will be recycling the entire vehicle and making a new one. So maybe you cut that. Maybe you cut that to 500 or 700,000 miles, depending on range and stuff like that. Or maybe what they'll do is they'll take small trips with different vehicles that are older or something like that. I don't know.
Do you want to work out how much electricity it is to drive 1 million miles, and then what the average cost of electricity is to figure out what the cost on electricity is to do that?
I don't know. Can you do it in the same amount of time? Because right now in Arizona, my off peak is 8 cents per kilowatt hour. But if obviously they're probably going to have their own power generation. So there's maybe about 8 to 10 cents depending on location per kilowatt hour. So if you got 3 cents over 1 million miles, you're looking at
so it's 6 or 7. It's 67 watt hours per passenger kilometer. So was it from kilometer to mile 1.6 or something? So it's 1.6. Is
it 2.2?
It's 107 watt hours per passenger kilometer.
Ellie says no way we'll have self-driving cars. We'll get there. Ellie. And they'll self-drive your hooker to your whatever.
Times 1 million is 107 kilowatt divided by 1,000. So that's 107,000 kilowatt hours. And you're saying what's the price per kilowatt hour?
Just say 10 cents.
10 cents. So that's divided by 10 then. So that's $10,700 in electricity.
Over how long?
For those 1 million miles.
That seems really low.
Yeah. So 1 million.
Maybe put a 0 on the end of that.
Divided by 10,700 is no, it's 10,700 divided by 1 million, isn't it? It's 1 cent. It's 1 cent per kilometer per mile. So now you're at 4.5 cents per kilometer. That's 4.5 cents per mile.
And then you got to count in tires.
Nope.
What do you mean? You got to count tires.
It's a lot cheaper than 55 cents.
Oh yeah, gotcha. So, well, tires are fairly expensive. So yeah, I mean maybe they could get down to
But
down to
but
55
the
cents.
profit, I still don't actually even think that the profit is the main driver here.
No, I know, but it has to be.
The driver
I'm
is the
not even talking about
utilization rate
profit.
of the products that they make.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, at 55 cents, you probably will find a lot of people utilize it. Because I don't know how many miles I drive, but it's not a lot because I kind of work from home, right? So let's say I drive 5,000 miles a year. At 55 cents is
Well, let's say they offer the
$2,750.
service at half price. Let's say they offer the service at 25 cents a mile.
Well, yeah, well,
They'd still be making money on it,
that's like
and
a no-brainer,
everybody and their dog would do it.
probably. And so you're basing that on the $30,000 car?
I was working on 35,000.
35,000? No, they'll probably do most of them with the small car, which will probably be down to the 18. So cut that in half, actually, probably, because they say they're going to have about a $25,000 car. So just say 20,000. So
Yeah,
cut that.
I'm just working on cost price of what they're pushing out now, and
Yeah.
considering that's probably the majority of what they're going to be making for the next few years.
No, I know, but in 2025, 2026, when they're going to be doing the robo-taxi stuff, the actual test,
But
if they do
you're
it.
not hearing me when I say that actually autonomy might happen sooner than that.
No, I heard you. I just don't believe you. I just think you're wrong.
Okay.
So, but no, I mean, it makes the case even better in 2026 because when you have and actually, they mentioned that other one in 2023 for the small model. So even if it happens sooner than 2025, they may push it out with the small model, which may bring the cost down even lower. You never know. So they may have a myriad of cars, actually. They'll probably have like a few Model S's, a bunch of Model 3s and Model Ys, and then and even more of the small, and then maybe even a couple of Cybertrucks.
But say by 2030 they can get to a place where they're making 20 million cars a year, and say that they've got enough money in the bank and their profit margins are such that they can actually take a quarter of that. So what's that? 7.5 million cars a year. Stick it straight into a robo fleet.
It's the
On
ultimate
top of whatever
subscription
they've already
service.
got working as a robo fleet by then.
Maybe they'll buy Apple and they'll have some in-car entertainment by then.
No,
Yeah.
I'm seriously just like, how can you expand the utilization rate and get that 2045 date moved forward?
Yeah, well, you have to get robotaxis super cheap. Well, think of
Yeah.
it this way too. When they start, when they start doing that $25,000 Tesla, I'm telling you, man, Mazda's out of business, Nissan's out of business. You're gonna push out a quarter of the car companies are gonna go bankrupt. Used car price, maybe that's, I don't know, it's probably too soon for that, but maybe what we're seeing now with used cars, maybe for the next 10 or 15 years, is where some of these car companies because keep in mind a Mazda or a Hyundai or one of these kind of value cars, when Tesla pushes out something in their price range, they're going to get decimated, and they probably can't handle a 20% decline in manufacturing, right? It'll just kill them. So
I think that those brands are going to be changing over to EVs and using lithium metal battery packs within the next couple of years. This is going to be
but
announced,
they won't.
and they're going to be doing
It'll be too late.
and they'll be 100% EV somewhere between 2025 and 2030.
I would agree with that.
Whether or not they survive is the big question. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know, because I was listening to something once and they said a car manufacturer can't survive about a 10% decline in sales, a sustained 10% decline in sales. You look at Nissan. Nissan had a thing. They had to like slash tons and tons of jobs. I think it was 2005 or 2006. They had to go through a major.
If 10% is bad, then here's an interesting one for you. So Volkswagen Group said that they were going to be doing 60% EVs by 2030. At which point I wrote on Twitter in reply, I said, what are you going to do with the other 40%? You won't be selling them here in the United Kingdom because you're not allowed to sell them here anymore by 2030.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so 40%. Oops.
I don't know. I'm done with Volkswagen Group. I decided actually yesterday that fuck Volkswagen is my new motto when it comes to Volkswagen. Just a whole Dieselgate thing. Like, seriously, I thought about it again. I'm like, man, that still pisses me off. Fuck those people. I'm done with them. Not that that means
Yeah, well,
anything, but
they're not the only ones that did that though. So they're just the ones that got the majority for the stick for it.
well, they're also the biggest auto manufacturer, so they had to
Yeah.
they had to, anyway. I'm just done with them, but no, I don't know, man. I mean, I think GM and Ford will survive. I think Volkswagen will survive. Um, Most of the other ones are fairly up in the air. I think they're going to be up in the air, and you'll have some. Maybe NIO will survive too. So you'll have another competitor globally in NIO.
Yeah, there'll be a few Chinese manufacturers coming in.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the landscape will shift. I don't know what'll survive. Toyota will probably survive. Although, are they have it? Do they have an electrification plan yet? I don't know if Toyota does. Oh Jesus,
But
eight
Tesla have made
fifteen.
it clear that they're not in this to drive everybody out of business. So I'm sure some deals will get made at some point when they just can't. Like it's literally capitulation moment, isn't it? It's like World War II all over again. It's like, oh well, we can't handle anymore. So there you go. Here's the white flag.
Yeah, what do you
We'll
think about
we'll
them
buy
opening up the
your
supercharger network?
your licensed stuff and
Yeah, what do you think about them opening up the supercharger network towards the end of the year, like they were talking about?
um.
I don't like it.
Well, I like it. I think they're obviously going to be able to control the costs and stuff and make sure that Tesla customers have priority and things. So that's from that perspective, it's fine. And it will probably drive existing EV drivers that are driving different brands to realize how much easier the Tesla network is, and it's obviously going to be cheaper if they have a Tesla. So the next car is then probably going to be a Tesla.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, I don't like it. He said they don't want to do the whole walled garden thing, and I get that, but I kind of want them to do the walled garden thing. Not that I have a say in it, but I kind of do want them, especially because there's already some superchargers at capacity, especially in very high traffic locations. So maybe they only
Well,
open
I
up
just want them to. I
certain
just want them to
ones.
help me make regional aviation a thing.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Yeah.
Battery
No,
electric, that is.
no, you know what I think? I think they should do. I think they should open up certain superchargers. That's what they should do. They should take the ones that are high traffic to Tesla and not make them available to other brands. I think that's what they should do. I'd be perfectly fine with that because I've driven past superchargers with like 10, 12 open stalls, and if there's like a 10 Tesla, usually it's in California. If there's a 10 Tesla deep line, you don't want to have a Chevy Bolt sitting right there.
No, they said they were going to charge for the time, not so much the electricity.
Well, they said both. They said they would charge more for time if someone's taking too long. They would charge them
Yeah,
additional.
yeah, yeah.
They would charge them additional. But I don't even think
And
that's
again,
the.
and it
I
comes
don't.
back to what I said. Like those EV drivers will soon realize how better it is to just have a Tesla, and they'll be changing over to a Tesla sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's probably a very good point because when you think about it, I would think that a lot of the people that buy some of these other EVs are like, well, Tesla's good, but let me try this one, and then
Can
they.
can can you imagine turning up a supercharger station and you're sitting there for an hour and you've got like 3 Teslas come in and drive off again in that time?
Yeah. Right.
How pissed off are you going to be?
Yeah. Well, you're not. Yeah, you're right. You're not going to buy a Mach 3 EV or whatever the fuck they're calling their Mustang. I don't know. Hey, what's up, Monkeytron? Yeah, I don't
All
like them
right, I'm
opening
going
up
to
the
shoot off.
supercharger
It's been
network.
good.
All right, cool, JJ. Peace out,
All right,
bud. I got to
thanks,
run
mate.
too, guys. 8:17. I'm bouncing. Mark's been pretty stable. Tesla
Bye.
is looking like it may want to start bouncing after earnings. So I don't think they heard anything too bad. They're just working their plan, and we're starting to curl back up. Broke the trend line. I like that. That's really nice. So we'll
I
see.
don't know.
What's
Still has to
Amazon
get
up
above
to?
700.
I know. Amazon stable down here in the dips, but yeah, I know it's got like they've got 6 months. I mean, I think they've got six
Yeah.
months before we really know what we're going to be into with Texas and Berlin, Because in 6 months,
I wonder if around this sort of between the 700 and 600 is just going to be a new base for the next few months, and then I'll start moving again.
I think I don't know. I think it may ride my trend line like it's been doing. I think they had an opportunity to take it lower. I don't think they took that opportunity. I think it's just micro accumulation at this stage. So it's my hypothesis, and I could be completely wrong, but I think they may stay up majority above my trend line. Maybe they dip down a little bit, but maybe both scenarios happen.
The accumulation will tell also. If the accumulation will keep going up, then yes. But if it comes back down below all-time high on accumulation, then I think it's probably going to stay flat, the price.
So you said 7 to 6, right? 700 to 600 being the range?
Yeah.
They could do that and then pop back in the trend line. They could do that.
It's the accumulation sitting at all-time highs again now for the third time since the 24th of June. So
yeah,
if
they're not selling
down, then the price will come back down or stay level. But
so Ellie's, I think he's saying I'm wrong, and he's agreeing with your scenario where it chops for 3 months. He says chops for about 3 months.
Time will tell all, won't it?
There's earnings 1020.
It's pretty easy. I mean, at the end of the day, we will find out shortly because we're sitting at the top of that line now. So either it goes above it and upwards and onwards and follows your long-term angled uptrend line.
And let's all agree.
It doesn't come above 700, and then as well.
Yeah, and then let's all agree, even if it goes sideways, as the worst case scenario is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, it just buys us more time to buy this stock.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, I'm bouncing. I will not be here most of next week. I will be probably back on Friday, unless I'm too tired from my trip, but I'm on vacation. So, all right, everyone.
Cool.
Have a great weekend and weekend. I'll see you later.